I am very aware that it's 2:30 in the afternoon, and at this point in time, you've heard 16 speakers. That being said, I'm somewhat of an amateur historian, and I'm reminded that 40 years ago, this is the anniversary of Harry Truman taking his whistle-stop tour around the United States in his 1948 presidential campaign. At the end of that campaign, when he was successful, is that someone asked him how it worked, Harry. You know, you stopped 4 or 5 times a day and gave a speech. And he said, well, it was real simple. He says, it's based on 3 things: be sincere, be brief, and be seated. And so with that in mind, that's what I'm about to do for y'all folks today. Is that what is the Small Business Development Center? Essentially, it is simply this. It is the SBA's largest cooperative agreement. And what we're all about is providing services to small businesses to help entrepreneurs realize their dreams and small businesses grow. It is a collaboration, if you will, in each state between the state university system and the SBA. That being said, most of us are either housed in a college of business like I am at Tennessee State or at a Chamber of Commerce, but we always work directly with the university. We are definitely not professional educators. We are simply business practitioners that each of us, when we come to the center, bring anywhere between 10 and 20 years worth of experience when we're hired. Is that we base our results on simple and straight statistics: jobs created, jobs retained, capital formation, and sales growth. But the real essence behind those numbers is when we publicize them or send them to Congress for funding, is that they are third-party certified. So I would give you just 2 numbers to just a little bit about what Tennessee does. In 2017, our centers from Johnson City all the way to Memphis accounted for a little bit over $150 million worth of capital formations to the small businesses we serve. And what I mean by capital formation, that was either debt financing, equity injection, or an increase in retained earnings. But even more so, you know, we're a government program. We provide a free service. Do we pay our way? Well, if you do this one right here, if last year you took for every dollar that was injected into our center, based on an econometric study, we generated $3.46 worth of sales revenue. So simply put, we give you folks a return on investment. And how do we do that? I think it's really based on 3 things. Is that it's based on the scope of our footprint, it's based on the diversity of the backgrounds that our counselors bring, and it's based on a simple but proven, straightforward relationship in terms of how we build our client base. Now, if you look at scope of the footprint, you can see that we're distributed with over 14 centers all across the state, beginning in Johnson City and moving all the way to Memphis. So we give folks access readily to our services. In terms of the diversity of our counselors, is that within the 50 folks that provide counseling, we have everything from a civil engineer to a CPA to an expert on social media. Is that now when you get to what are we about services? Well, you can take our services cafeteria style. For example, if you just wanted us to help you put together an export business plan, we would do that. But really, where we get economic impact is through building a long-term relationship with a client. That is putting in 10 or more hours each year of counseling with folks. Because the essence of this is, let's say if we were to work with you on putting together an export financing plan, you need an export loan. In the process of doing that, we're going to have to take a look at your financials. If it's a small business, we're probably going to take a look at your personal financial statement. So what's that about? That's about this right here. You're going to have to get financially naked with us as a counselor. You're not going to do that unless you trust a person. So we've got to build a relationship. In my center right now is that since 2000, I looked the other day, we're on client 23,000. I still have client 51. I still have client 76. I remember 51 was one of my first clients that walked in. He was one-person operation then. Today he has 34 folks. I've been through the ups and downs, and we trust each other. So that's the essence of what that is that when we started the International Trade Center at the SBD in Tennessee, we started it in 2013. Now, folks, for example, from Georgia, y'all have been in business in the SBDC International Trade and Wise since the 1990s. We were really behind the 8 ball. Is that when we started out, we didn't have any increase in funding. We didn't have any increase in personnel. We simply did this right here, is we got out in Johnson City and went across and took a look at, how do we need to serve clients? It was just basic missionary work. And you fast forward to 2015, and at that point in time, we became Susan Kittner's partner for the state of Tennessee with Ex-Im Bank. 2016 rather, we had grown to the point that the state of Tennessee Department of ECD contracted with us to manage their international trade program for them. 2017, we began to take trade missions, and I took some folks, because I have a mining background, to Arequipa, Peru, and the mining industry. Next week, in 2 weeks from now, our folks in Knoxville are going to take a trade mission to Amsterdam at a marine conference. And a little bit here, just this year, is that we have a global market access program that I want to share with you a little bit. So what are we about? It's pretty straightforward, is that we want to help you assess where you are in terms of being export ready. We want to help you explore market, and more than anything, develop an international business plan, because we're really, we see our niche as serving the first time or nascent exporter. In terms of evaluating your marketplace, we do simply this right here, is that we have a straightforward online 24-question multiple choice test. And what that does is that creates an evaluation, but more than anything, it creates a written narrative in terms of an action plan for the client moving forward. State of Alabama also uses the same test, because essentially what we want to do is we want to have the same counsel and effort in Memphis as we do in Johnson City. It is a McDonald's approach. In terms of market research, is that we have folks on staff and the databases to do that. Now, we really say this: you need to develop an export business plan. An export business plan is not a panacea. But it takes a commitment, because it's going to touch every aspect of your corporation. It's going to touch the accounting, compliance, operation, and sales. So you know what you're going to find out when you put that export business plan together? You're going to find out if you have the management commitment of your corporation to really export. Or you're going to find out if you have passive resistance. And at that point in time, you're going to really know if you can move forward or not. In terms of current exporters, what we really like to do with current exporters is help them find a new market, utilize things like export credit insurance to extend credit terms. Because consider this right here: for every exporter in the United States, virtually over 60% of the folks that export only export to one market. Now, in terms of offering something today, so I always got to have a hook to everybody, is that if you're from the state of Tennessee, I mentioned a little bit before that we now have what we call a global market access program. What that means is this right here, is that we can cost share with you on any trade mission or effort that you make, up to $5,000 worth of your expenses. In other words, is that we're going to pay $5,000 worth of your costs to develop your export market. Now, how do you access that? Pretty straightforward. You just simply go to that website. You're going to take the export test. Within 72 hours, one of our folks is going to sit down and have the initial counseling session, and we're going to go through the process of your application. Now, when I really came here to speak, is that it's not about the presentation. I think if you look at your program there, it says something about connect the dots at the end. For me, when I came here, it's about connecting with a client. It's about finding the client that I think is be a long-term person that I can help. And I found one. Didn't find him actually sitting at the lunch counter. And didn't find him at the table over there. Had the first conversation with him in the parking lot and the second conversation in the elevator. His name's Dallas Wade, sitting right over here most of the day. He's not here right now. Is that I don't know much about his business other than the fact he's in the lumber business. I know he's in Carroll County. I know this right here, that I'm going to see him within the next 10 days. I do remember two things. I do remember several things about our conversation. The first is, I asked him what his goals were. And he said, you know, he wanted to pass his business to the next generation in his family. And that's what we're about. We're small business counselors. Second thing he said in the elevator, I asked him the question, I said, well, do you have grandchildren? He said, yeah, I have 5. He says, as a matter of fact, he said, I have one that was born premature. And he said, when I touched that little baby, he wasn't any longer than that. And today he's 10 years old, and he's at the lumber yard with me every weekend. And for me, that's what this thing is all about. It's all about connecting with people, and I found the client, and that's the essence of what we do. We meet one-on-one with folks. It's not about necessarily helping you get the loan. Yes, that's the byproduct, but the byproduct, what we're really about is helping you build a business, realize your dream, and pass it on to the next generation. Now, I said this right here when I started. I said I'd be brief, and I've been brief, and hopefully you think I've been sincere. And now it's time for me to sit down. Thank you.